We are now diving deep into the world of fairy Pokemon. The fairy type was introduced in Generation 6, the first new type in more than 12 years. The introduction of the fairy type had a clear goal: to make dragon types less powerful. Developers made the fairy type immune to dragon type moves and made fairy moves super effective against dragon types. Fairies in mythology differ from the typical Disney version. For example, in European folklore, many fairies are considered malevolent. Less harmful pranks attributed to fairies include tangling the hair of sleepers into fairy locks, also known as elf locks, stealing small items, and leading travelers astray. More dangerous behaviors were also attributed to fairies. Any form of sudden death might have stemmed from a fairy kidnapping. Much folklore about fairies involves methods of protecting oneself from their malice, such as using cold iron. This is reflected in their type weakness by making fairies particularly weak to steel-type Pokemon. Some unsettling fairy entries in the Pokédex include Tapu Lele. It will scatter its scales over humans and Pokemon for its own enjoyment. While it is innocent in one sense, there is also cruelty in the way it casually brings others to ruin. Don't be taken in by this Pokemon's cute face. It's very dangerous. Mabel fools the foe into letting down its guard, then chomps down with its massive jaws. Shinotic. Its flickering spores lure in prey and put them to sleep. Once this Pokemon has its prey snoozing, it drains their vitality with its fingertips. At the start, we said that fairy Pokemon are linked with the dragon type, since fairy was added to nerf it. Where do they differ, and what makes them similar? The dragon type is often considered an ancestral type, as many legendary dragon type Pokemon are revered as deities. They are old, to put it another way. They come from a bygone era. Fairies, like dragons, are embedded deep into folklore across the world. They also share a magical background. Dragons have a draconian, pure energy type of magic, while fairies are generally connected to a type of nature magic. They have no effect against the fairy type because in certain mythologies, fairies' magic could dominate oriental dragons. Fairy-type Pokemon are generally considered cute and elegant. Some moves that hint at their magical powers include Geomancy, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, and Draining Kiss. Fairy types are also known for their powers of purity and rejuvenation. The moon is closely linked to the fairy type, hinting at the otherworldliness of fairy types. For example, a lot of fairy types evolve from the Moonstone. Sylveon learns the move Moonblast at level 50. The move is available to most fairy Pokemon and is also considered one of the strongest moves. Borrowing the power of the moon, the user attacks the target. The legendary Pokemon Xerneas is also a good example of a fairy-type Pokemon. It is purely fairy-type and is the only Pokemon with the ability Fairy Aura. It has a close relationship with Yveltal, a Dark-type Pokemon that can learn the ability Dark Aura. Because of this, one could argue that the Fairy type is the opposite of the Dark type. And there you have it, a good overview of the Fairy type Pokemon. Remember to like and subscribe for more exciting content in the future. Until next time.